listen to that voice in your head. Listen to that little entrepreneurial person on your shoulder saying, go on, take some action, go on, do it. Don't put it off until the perfect time, because the error people make is that it never comes.
Today, we're addressing a crucial topic that many aspiring entrepreneurs often overlook. It's the very real cost that comes before you start your dream business. It's not just about the financial aspects. Today, we're going to be talking about the time, opportunities, and potential growth so many people miss out on without realizing. So I think it's something that not many people talk about, and this is something that we want to bring into the light today. So Lewis, let's dive into this. How crucial do you think it is to understand the value of time in business?
It's a weird thing, time, viewing time as a non-renewable resource, because that's what it is. It's a bit like if you scoop up a handful of water with your hands, once it slips away, you can't get back that same bit of water. You can get more water back, but you can't get back those same particles, and it won't be that exact hand. And it's a bit like that with time. Every day that you leave something, that time is gone forever. Sure, you can find more time later, but that time is gone. It's non-renewable. So every day delayed is just lost opportunity, really. There was a study recently by Entrepreneur magazine that showed that fast starters in business are 30% more likely to succeed, which was interesting and ties into this concept of time, doesn't it, as a non-renewable resource. The people that take time seriously and realize that it's a limited resource that they've got to use tend to see more results. In fact, they're 30% more likely to succeed. So it's all about avoiding that dabbling mindset and taking the action that is needed to achieve your goals. The last few days have been pretty busy at work with my companies. We're growing rapidly, which is a good thing, but it creates a variety of challenges and obstacles. So currently we're hiring for new team members and onboarding new team members, and there's lots happening here at Dropship Unlocked. But with that brings an element of stress as the company owner. A lot of that falls onto my shoulders. And it had been a tough day yesterday, and I was working late, and I'd not seen my children or my wife that much throughout the day, which I never like doing. But sometimes, you just have to power through. At the end of the day, my children had just had a bath, and my wife was getting them, into their pajamas on the landing upstairs. And I just sat down next to them and just watched them running around like two crazy animals. And I just had to stop for a moment and just appreciate the moment. And it would have been really easy to sit there and think about all the things that I'd done that day, all the stresses, all of the stuff that I still had to do tomorrow. But it's challenging, but I still had stuff to do. I still had things on tomorrow, but I wasn't thinking about that. Right there and then, I was in the moment, and I was just looking at that moment right now in front of me, that moment of non-renewable time. And I just tried to savor it and enjoy it. And it's like that water that slips through your hands. You think, wow, my children will never be this young again, like as they are right today, and I'll never get this moment back. And so sometimes I have to pinch myself and look back on my former life, in my 9-to-5 job, and just realize how lucky I am that I made the decision to start my own business when I did. I did it at 27, which I feel I got started late. And if there's one regret I have, it's that I didn't start sooner and capitalize on this earlier, because I'd have got more of that time back to do the things that really matter to me. But every day that I left it, I remained working at my old job. I wasn't able to savor those precious moments because my time belonged to the company that I work. So it's a bit of a mindset shift. I don't think many people really stop to appreciate this, or if they do, then maybe not often enough. I certainly don't. But once you understand that value of time and how irreplaceable it is, if you're anything like me, I couldn't stand spending a second longer procrastinating. Once the penny dropped for me and I realized, I can't ever get back this time. Once I realized that it was slipping away if I didn't take any action, then I realized I needed to do something to control my freedom, and I chose to start a location-independent e-commerce business.
And once you started, you made that decision that time was so important to you. And I realized that the more and more time I spend around wealthy people, time is the resource that they value more than anything. I think it's easy to allocate a lot of importance to money as a currency that we can clearly see and add value to, because it's simple, it's quantified, you can see the numbers in front of you. But time is a little bit more abstract, more difficult to assign the importance that's there. So I really enjoy this point that you're making, Lewis, about putting time above and beyond anything. And if we're wasting time and not going after the dreams, then that's time we can't get back. You can make money back, but you can't make time back. They talk about people when they're young or whatever age they're at as being time billionaires. So you think about 20-year-olds, you can call them time billionaires or any age actually for that matter. Before you started a business, you're only going to get older, and you'll look back at the time before as never being a better time to start whatever it is that you want to start. But something that I think holds people back a lot is the right moment and thinking that there'll be a right moment for starting something. What do you think about waiting for the right moment? And do you think that can be misleading?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a huge myth. And I love the concept of time billionaires because time is the most valuable resource we have, especially when it comes to business and investing and personal development and growth, because over time, that stuff compounds, doesn't it? Whether say you invest, you know what the stats are, like you invest £100 today and 30 years time, it would be way more than if you invested it halfway through that process, even if you invested double, triple, quadruple the amount, or because of that compounding interest. So it's fascinating when you look at that chart of compounding interest and how that works over time. But yeah, the myth of perfect timing is, it's like waiting for all of the traffic lights to be green before you start your journey. You just wouldn't do it. You don't wait for the stars to align before you do something. It rarely happens. I remember on the way from work one day, I was in the car and I was driving back from work and it was a rainy afternoon. I was listening to a podcast in my car. This was probably back in 2014, 2015. And I was listening to a podcast, this guy on the podcast, it was on the Joe Rogan show. And it was a guy called Andreas Antonopoulos. And he was talking about this weird type of digital money that was super niche and like he thought was going to be the future. And it was called Bitcoin. And I was like, oh, that sounds interesting. And I remember hearing it back then. And the way you talk about it, if you ever listen to that episode, it's great. The first one where he appeared on the Joe Rogan show, it was so, like, he's so passionate and believed so much in it. And it was worth like $250 or something for one Bitcoin at the time. And I just remember thinking, this sounds really, really cool, this technology. And I was like, maybe when I get home, I'll buy some. And, imagine having bought some at $250. But I don't know, like life got in the way and I thought, no, I'll see how it pans out. I'll wait for the perfect time, talk about a mistake. I got distracted, got sidetracked, did something else, left it. And, it rocketed up in value over the coming years. And look where it's at today, right? I mean, depending on when you're listening to this, it might have crashed again by now. But, it's probably still worth a lot more than it was back then. So I could look back on that time and think, was it really worth me waiting for the perfect moment? Or would it have been just better for me to pull out my iPhone, take some small action towards the goal and just be like, is it worth £100? Go on then. Yeah. And just invest something in it. So I think when you look back at things like that, I'm definitely not saying go out and blow all of your money on high risk investments. That's not the message here. That might, never amount to anything. But if you see a solid opportunity and you believe in it and you think this sounds like something I'm interested in, I'd be good at that, I'm willing to learn about that, and I'm also willing to take some risk as well, then listen to that voice in your head. Listen to that little entrepreneurial person on your shoulder saying, go on, take some action, go on, do it. Don't put it off until the perfect time, because the error people make is that it never comes. And so start where you are, start with what you have, waiting for that perfect moment, that perfection. All it is really is procrastination in disguise, or like you can dress it up however you want. It really is you trying to protect yourself from taking any risk, and that fear gets disguised as I'll just wait for the things I'll wait till I'm back from holiday. I'll wait till I've, it's the new year. I'll wait, like whatever the reason is. As they say, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The next best time is today, right now.
And we heard that recently in episode 45 with Dropship Unlocked member Suraj, and he said he wished he'd started earlier. And I have the same thing. My biggest regret actually was not starting my businesses earlier. I started in 2021. I should have started a year before, and knowing people in the industry and how the industry was going. And I know the skills that I would have learned earlier and the actions that I would have taken in that year. It's easy for me to see how I could have made about £500,000 in my first year, knowing what I know now. And from that, say I make an average of 30% gross profit margin and a 20% net profit margin, then we're looking at leaving £100,000 on the table because I didn't start earlier. So it nags away at me. I'm not going to sit there and wallow in the regrets. I'm so glad I started when I did. But I just know that had I started earlier, that's a lot of money that I did leave on the table. But it's so easy not to quantify that and not to look back at the mistakes that we've made. Like with Bitcoin, it's easy just to forget it. But actually, if you look back and realize the decisions that you make do have a big impact, and you realize that there are some opportunities always out there for you to really grow